The movie begins by showing a forest. A man was trying desperately to get out of this forest. The forest was so dense that no way out could be seen. This man was moving forward by looking at the sun, but now the sun had also set. But he didn't stop running. While running, he reached a point where he saw a skeleton of a fairy with a sign that read, "Point of no return," meaning no one could return from here. Seeing this boat, the worry on his face was evident. Darkness deepened, and suddenly all the birds flew away from there. There was no place to hide. The man was very scared, so he climbed a tree. Unfortunately, he fell from such a height that before he passed out, we see someone pulling him. Who was pulling him was not shown, but we hear the man's painful screams. The scene cuts, and 6 days later, we see a girl named Mina in the city. Mina had no friends or family except for a sister. At this time, her boss at the pet store where she was working orders her to drop off a parrot somewhere. Mina picks up the parrot and takes it home because she had to go to the zoo the next day. She spent the night with the parrot, and in the morning, she set out for the zoo with it. While walking on a long road, she suddenly took a wrong turn and ended up in the middle of a forest. This was the same forest where we had seen a man disappear earlier. At first, she drove into the forest with her car, but when she couldn't find a way out, she had to get out of the car. She thought maybe there would be someone nearby to ask for help. She started walking ahead with the parrot. The darkness was growing deeper, and suddenly, just like before, all the birds flew away from the trees. Mina began to feel scared because the ground was shaking violently. She also sensed someone nearby. In the distance, she saw an old woman running. Mina chased after her, asking for help, but the woman didn't stop and kept running. When Mina got tired of chasing her, she stopped. The old woman then called out to her, saying, "If you want to stay alive, run quickly towards us." Hearing this, Mina ran towards the old woman again. The old woman took her hand and brought her into a house. As soon as they entered the house, the old woman locked it. It wasn't a house, but rather a very strange room with a huge mirror. Along with the old woman, there were 2 other people. Mina, panicking, asked them where they were. They didn't answer and told her to stand in front of the mirror because someone was coming to see them. When Mina asked who was coming, the old woman, Madeline, replied that the Watchers were coming to see them. Suddenly, strange sounds began to echo. The old woman explained that the Watchers were happy about her arrival and were clapping for her. Mina was utterly confused. The Watchers that Madeline referred to hadn't been shown in the movie yet, nor had Mina or anyone else seen them. The night passed. In the morning, they all came out of that place. Madeline explained that the Watchers only came out at night. During the day, they could roam freely in the forest. Mina didn't want to stay in the forest, so she decided to move forward to find a way out. But Madeline warned her that it was not a good decision because there was no way out of the forest. They had to return to the house before nightfall, or they would lose their lives. Mina didn't listen to anyone and kept moving forward with her parrot. As she advanced, she saw the same point of no return signs. She was scared but continued in the direction of the sun, just like the previous person. However, she was not able to get out of the forest. Suddenly, she felt movement beneath the ground. Terrified, she ran back towards the house. She was defeated. Here, Madeline encouraged her and said that she was not the only one who had tried to escape and failed. They, too, had failed and stayed here. There was no way out. The forest lured souls and showed strange things to people, which could drive them insane. Therefore, if she wanted to stay alive, she should stay with them. The forest was a hunter, and they were all its prey. Madeline showed her several point of no return signs placed in a circular pattern around the forest. She explained that these signs were half a day's distance from their home. If they went beyond them, returning would be difficult. So, whenever she saw these signs, she shouldn't ignore them. Mina asked who had made all this, and Madeline replied that a professor had created it. Night fell, and they returned inside the house. Every night, the Watchers came to see them. That night, a girl named Kira danced in front of them, saying that the Watchers liked it. It wasn't that they had to stand in front of the Watchers every night. They could do whatever they wanted but couldn't turn their backs to them. At night, their only concern was the Watchers, but during the day, they faced many difficulties. They had to hunt something from the forest every day for their survival. The next day, Kira and Mina went into the forest to gather food. Mina asks Kira what the Watchers actually want. Kira replies that she doesn't know much either, but Madeline has a theory. According to her, the Watchers observe them, but if they look at the Watchers, they will go mad. Kira shows her a pit and says that there are many such pits in the forest. During the day, all the Watchers stay in these pits and come out at night. Mina tells Kira that they have been trapped there for 6 months. Kira's husband went out into the forest to find a way out. She hopes that he will definitely find a way and come back, so they can escape from there. We learn that Kira's husband was actually the same man we saw at the start of the movie, who was taken away by something. Upon returning close to their house, Madeline explains 3 rules to Mina for survival. The first rule is that she should not open the door of the house at night. The second rule is that she should not turn her back to the mirror at night. The third rule is that she should not go near the pits during the day and should stay in the light as much as possible. That night, Mina wanted to know more about the Watchers, so she pressed her ear to the mirror to listen for sounds. When she didn't hear anything, she turned her back to the mirror. Doing this made the Watchers angry, and they started banging on the mirror, even cracking it. The noise woke Madeline, who told Mina to stand in front of the mirror to calm the Watchers. The night passed, and the next day, Mina went hunting with Daniel. Mina didn't want to waste her days there, so she was preparing to leave. She asked Daniel if he had ever seen a Watcher. Daniel replied no. Then Mina explained to Daniel that she thought all this was a story made up by Madeline to trap them. She suggested that they should definitely check the pits, as they might find a way out. Daniel, who also wanted to get out of there, agreed with Mina. Mina tied a rope around herself and started descending into the pit while Daniel held the other end. If anything happened to Mina, Daniel could quickly pull her out. When Mina reached the bottom of the pit, she found a lot of human belongings. She gathered the items, thinking they must have belonged to people trapped in the forest. Using the rope, Mina and Daniel brought the items out, and just before Mina exited the pit, she saw some fingers inside it. She couldn't see clearly what it was but got scared. They took all the items back to their safe house. Madeline asked Mina where she found the items, and they lied, saying they found them in the forest. Madeline, having spent a long time in the forest, knew that such items could only be found in the pits. She kept asking Mina what she saw inside the pit, but Mina didn't tell her anything. They also found a camera in the pit. Daniel and Mina set up the camera outside the house like a CCTV to see the Watchers. Madeline kept telling them they were making a mistake, but they didn't listen. That night, they waited to see the Watchers. They hadn't shown up yet, but something strange happened. Someone knocked on their door. When they checked the camera, they saw human legs outside. Whoever was outside was speaking in Kira's husband's voice. Kira thought that her husband must have found a way out of the forest. She quickly got up to open the door, but Madeline stopped her, saying, "You can't open this door. I know that's not your husband." Kira didn't believe Madeline, so Madeline suggested she test it. She told Kira to ask the person outside something only she and her husband would know. Kira asked the person outside about a book her husband should know about. When the person outside couldn't answer, they realized it was a Watcher. When they didn't open the door, the Watcher broke their camera. All the Watchers were now furious. They were about to break the glass outside their house, but everyone stood in front of the mirror. Seeing this, the Watchers stopped trying to break the glass and didn't attack them. After a night filled with numerous unsettling events, Daniel and Mina decided to tell Madeline the truth about going into the pit. Madeline was furious that they had broken a rule. She took all the items they had brought from the pit and threw them back into it. Reluctantly, Mina decided to stay there. Time passed, and the seasons changed. Winter arrived, but they were still trapped. Every day, Mina searched for a way out but found none. She even made a map, convinced that she would eventually complete it. Due to the winter, they struggled to find food, which affected their mental state. During this difficult time, Madeline and Daniel had a fight. In his anger, Daniel locked Madeline and Mina outside, taking Kira into the safe house. It was getting dark, and Madeline and Mina desperately knocked on the door, pleading with Daniel to let them in, but he refused. As darkness fell, they were forced to stand under a dense tree to save their lives. They could hear the Watchers approaching. For the first time, the audience, along with Mina and Madeline, got a glimpse of the Watchers. They were tall, thin, and menacing. Emerging from their pits, the Watchers reached the safe room to observe the humans. When they saw that Mina and Madeline weren't there, they began searching the forest for them. As soon as the creatures moved away, Mina and Madeline seized the opportunity to return to the safe house. They banged on the door, and finally, Daniel let them in. They were terrified because they had seen the creatures up close. Madeline comes and says that she lied about being stuck here. In reality, she came here looking for these creatures because she had read in books that these creatures are fairies. But upon arriving, she realized that they were monsters and very intelligent ones. They could change their appearance. The one she saw had taken her exact form, except its hair was a bit messy and its eyes were sunken. She deduced from their behavior that they learn something new every day to become like humans. That's why they come and observe humans daily and start mimicking their actions. During this conversation, there is a knock at the door again. These creatures were now speaking like them and wanted to come inside, but they couldn't open the door. Even if they didn't open the door, the creatures had enough strength to break through the iron door. They needed to hide somewhere. Suddenly, Neil noticed the floor, which was uneven. When he lifted the carpet, he found a bunker underneath. Without wasting time, they opened the bunker door and went inside, then closed it. They were amazed that this bunker had been there for so long without them knowing. The bunker had many facilities, food for thousands of days, numerous TVs, technology, and other essential supplies. Mina wanted to know who had created this place, so she turned on the computer. The computer didn't have internet, but it had a lot of saved data. Upon opening it, they discovered that Dr. Martin had created this place. The professor knew about these creatures and wanted to research them, so he built this bunker. He lived in this bunker and brought other humans here by tempting them with money, leaving them in the rooms above at night while he hid in the bunker. The monsters would then come and eat those humans. During his research, Dr. Martin explained that these creatures were not monsters but actually fairies who once lived with humans. However, humans betrayed them and trapped them in these forests before leaving. For many years, due to living underground, they lost their magic and their wings. Dr. Martin explains that during all his research, he found one unique fairy who could come out of the burrows even in the light and was good. She did not harm Dr. Martin, and he brought her here. That fairy learned everything while staying with Martin, but after a while, a fight broke out between them. This computer had many videos, and in every video, Dr. Martin had explained something. Mina just wanted to know what happened in the end, so she played the last video, in which she saw the professor talking about how he and that fairy ended up killing each other. Before dying, he explained the way out of the forest for the people trapped there. He said that they should follow the direction in which the birds fly in the evening to escape the forest. In his recorded message, he said that if anyone managed to escape from this forest, they should go to the university and destroy all his research. Some secrets should remain secrets. He admitted to making a big mistake by coming here and that he couldn't create the world he dreamed of. He couldn't keep humans and fairies together. Anyway, that night, they were quite alert because they had found a way out. When everyone emerged from the bunker, they saw that the Watchers had completely destroyed their safe house. Now, these people sat on the path to leave the forest. The birds that the professor mentioned were supposed to fly in the evening, but they had to get out of the forest before evening. So, Mina released the parrot she had with her, and they started walking in the direction it flew. While walking, they found a grave. Madeline, looking at the grave, explained that there was a time when these people lived with humans, but the humans treated them very badly, betrayed them, and left them in these forests. And because these fairies lost their wings and magic, they could never leave the forest again. As they walked, they reached a river. Finally, through this river, they could escape the forest. Evening had already fallen, and the fairies and watchers had started coming out of the ground. Before they could get into Dr. Martin's boat and sail away, Daniel found his companion John in an injured state. Daniel rushed to help him, while everyone else boarded the boat. Before Daniel could return, they realized that the person he was helping was not a human but a shape-shifting fairy who had now taken Daniel's form before their eyes. They could do nothing for Daniel. The fairy marked Daniel's forehead and killed him. They realized that fairies could not cross the river. Finally, they crossed the river themselves and reached the city. The scene cuts to show that Mina has come to the university to destroy all of Dr. Martin's data as he had instructed. Before deleting his research data, she discovered something new, that thousands of years ago, when humans and fairies lived together, they used to marry and have children known as hybrids. She also learned that Madeline, whom they met in the forest, was actually the professor's wife. Mina was confused as to why Madeline didn't tell her this. To share her confusion, she went to Kira and told her that the Madeline they met in the forest was actually Professor Martin's wife but didn't reveal the truth because she was not human but a shape-shifting fairy. Kira was shocked to hear this. Years ago, Professor Martin's wife Madeline had died of lung cancer. The professor loved her very much and wanted to stay with her. Then, the professor learned about the shape-shifting fairies. Showing his wife's photo, he made one of these fairies look like Madeline. While Mina was explaining all this, she suddenly realized that she was not telling Kira but Madeline, who had taken Kira's form. As the real Kira arrived, Madeline knocked her unconscious and advanced to attack Mina to keep her secret safe. Before killing Mina, Madeline said she was the only one different in the forest. All the fairies made fun of her because she could come out during the day. In anger, they cast her out. Mina then said, "You weren't different. You were special. You are a hybrid, half human and half fairy. This is why you could live with both fairies and humans and why you could escape the forest." As soon as Mina revealed this truth, Madeline's wings and magic returned, and she flew away, leaving Mina behind. The story then shows a few weeks later. Mina is now staying with her sister. She was very scared after the whole ordeal with the forest and the fairies and wanted to stay with her sister. She told her sister that she felt the fairy was still following her. Her sister reassured her that nothing would happen. In the final scene, a little girl is shown living under Mina's house. This girl is actually the fairy Madeline, living in their world in the form of a child, and the movie concludes. I hope you have liked this movie recap. Please like, share and subscribe for more real recaps.